I find myself looking back and wondering why did these people just back away? Why wouldn't they help me? Why couldn't they see what God saw in me? Because man, it hurts. It stings whenever the people that you grew up with, the people that are supposed to be your family, they fucking treat this as a moral issue rather than a disease. They treat it as, oh, you have a problem with your judgment, your thinking. You're just a piece of shit, essentially. You know what I mean? And
You're doing great. I have like 6 points you brought up. We were talking about like, well, why does this happen? Why do other people not have to accept our amends? In my past, I realized that just like my lesson was to learn self-love in a way and turn back to God, other people who are around me, like ex-girlfriends and things like that, when they set boundaries with me and moved on, that was their life lesson. Can they respect their self? The lesson could very well be for them on their spiritual pathway was to cut loose something that was toxic, self-love, and move forward with their life. And you did facilitate that life lesson to them. It's just we're still in that human domain. We don't remember. Maybe we agreed to that on a higher level. Okay.
human demand, I like that. Yeah, complete sense because they're on their path there, just like I'm on my path here.
Exactly. That's one way to recontextualize that. Now, I had no problem admitting that I have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol and other drugs, and that chemical affected me differently. Do you feel that the labels addict, alcoholic, do you call yourself that? Does it demoralize you in any way? Go ahead.
And not for me, but I do see a change in how people speak with me, greet me, talk to me. And maybe I'm wrong for sometimes bringing this up to people in the workplace, but whenever I see them struggling, I try to kind of share a little bit about myself and earn that confidence, so that I could possibly share something with them. But a lot of times it backfires, man. A lot of times it backfires. It becomes one of those things where, oh, well, I'm not that bad. You did this. I'm only cheating on my wife. You know what I mean?
I tell people, especially early in recovery, not to tell your boss or employers that you're in recovery, because even though you're excited about your future and optimistic, you got to remember those managers, they've heard that story from other people probably several times in their career, and then Friday comes, the paycheck hits, and so doesn't show up for 3 days, so they have maybe a sour taste in their mouth. I say, at least for the first year or two, to try to not be blasting it at your workplace.
Whenever I look at myself and I look at other 36-year-olds, you know what I mean? And ones that had parents, ones that had the structure, ones that, are, I guess, quote unquote, normal, you know what I mean? And they have their homes and they have their vehicles and, they're not struggling, or they don't appear to be struggling in the way that I have, or I am, you know what I mean? I didn't grow up right, my dad's a biker dude and shit. He was lawless. On Christmases, I got my money and I was looking for somebody to hang out with, and there was nobody available because people had families and shit, you know what I mean? And there was times I was hanging out with just homeless people, you know what I mean? I'm just looking for something somewhere, some kind of guidance, some kind of advice. Even in sobriety, I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. We all want the same things, whenever I see other people and they're able to do the sports with their kids and stuff like that, and I'm just like, man, I can't even provide that, kind of makes me feel sorry, but yeah, I guess we do the best we can. I don't know. Even in the midst of addiction, it's always been about my son whenever he was born. The problem is I couldn't handle my emotions. You know what I mean? I just didn't really know. I didn't have I didn't know there were any other avenues and stuff. I certainly wasn't praying. I didn't have a spiritual anything at that time. And I continued to use, for any reason, and but it was always on my mind that I wanted him to be in a good school, that I wanted him to have things, as far as like being in a place where the programs are there, like some of my coworkers and stuff, they live down in another school district and they talk about, oh yeah, my son's taking modeling classes. Oh, my son's doing this or that or the other. And I'm still stuck here in the hood, and yeah.
Is there a solution for that? I mean, we're talking about obviously finances, financial,
It's one of those things, man, where I've had to realize, okay, this is where I'm at right now. This is how it's gonna be. I could go back out of town and I could go and grind and make some more money and stuff like that, but it's not gonna get me out of here, out of this neighborhood, just simply because of little financial things like credit and things like that. I'm going to do what I need to do financially, but I'm going to be here for my son, to be available, to help guide. I made a lot of really bad decisions that have put me here in this place. You know what I mean? If I wouldn't have kept fucking off my jobs and stuff like that, I would have had some experience to, I've always worked in the same field, man, but I've always worked for different companies in the same field. I'll get in there and then I'll do a good job for about a year or so, and then I'll relapse and I'll lose that job. So then I have to go to another one, and now I'm starting off as the new guy again, competing for those positions within that company. But
I mean, obviously, anytime we go back out and use again an episode of use or relapse, however you terminology it, and then start back over, that's a kick in the nuts. But like when you go into the environment, a new job, you're like, man, I have 12 years experience in this field and I'm starting out as the apprentice again or whatever you call it, is that another thing that just wears you down? You're constantly the person that's being pushed around.
Yeah, and and it's funny you bring up that being pushed around part. I grew up, I was the only white kid, dude. I'm not even bullshitting. I mean, just like even now in my neighborhood, I'm fucking the only white guy for like miles. I'm used to it, but whenever I get out there into the corporate world, I'm fucking scared out of my mind. I don't even speak right. You know what I mean? It's just, you can tell I'm from the hood, basically. You know what I mean? And it sucks. That hurts me. That hurts my confidence and stuff. And I would get pushed around a lot. I've been getting pushed around my whole entire life. You know what I mean? If it wasn't my own family, it was just, people who weren't in my little circle, you know what I mean? And we're dealing with them. And, so I get into these places, and I have to prove myself once again. Just shit. It's just hard. It wears you down, just like you're saying. It just wears on you, to where you almost get deceived to the point where, I'm stuck here. It's not going to get any better. You know what I mean? I'm trying to hang on and I'm doing, I'm reading a lot and stuff like that, but this is where I am. I'm excited to learn things. I'm excited to fucking do things. I'm always the first one to raise my hand. I'll help anybody with anything, whether it be at work or just building a fence. I'm a loving parent, I'm an involved parent, even though I can't afford to put my son into baseball or some shit like that. I feel that because of what I've been through and where I'm at in my career, where I'm at, in my life, that I don't know, it just makes me feel like a piece of shit sometimes.
Okay, so
even though
you're touching on like the inner image of self-esteem. I didn't realize how parenting styles, certain upbringing, like it's really solidified the framework of self-esteem before you're 10 years old. And then you have to either correct it or go through this pattern of inner dialogue that keeps getting reactivated throughout your life.
These are things that you would think you would be past. When I talk to my wife about these things, it's like, that was high school. She's like, that was high school. What do you? Who cares? Nobody knows that. Nobody cares about that. You know what I mean? But for some reason, in my mind, it's there. Bam! Every time I'm this kid, I'm that kid, you know what I mean? Like that self-esteem issue, it really fucking hits, you know, I mean, it really hurts, you know what I mean? It's, and I feel like people can tell, you know, it's,
So is it more of a like a subtle recurring like acute pain of maybe this is my life, maybe this is what I deserve, maybe this is what God had planned for me, whatever. Go ahead.
it's true what you say. The parents and the structure has to be there to help build that in your child. It doesn't just come out naturally. You know what I mean? Self-esteem is built. You know, just as obedience is cultivated, it's learned. You know what I mean? And when you don't have that structure in your life, I feel that you don't get these you don't get built up, whenever your parents are always assuming you're just a piece of shit. I hate whenever I hear people say, "Oh, that's just how he is. Oh, that's just how he is," blow him off, that's just how he is. And it's when you're 10 years old, that's just not how you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm taking a backseat and trying to give my son those things that I didn't have. That structure. He's got grandparents. He's got me and his mom are together. You know what I mean? We're not in this situation where, oh, you're gonna drop him off on Wednesday, I'll have him back to you that night, and he'll come over every other weekend and that sort of thing. That shit wears on a child, man. That those things put me in a position where I was in between parents and I could do whatever the fuck I wanted, man. You know what I mean? It was almost like slipping through the cracks. I had this parental figure here with their rules, and I had this one over here with their rules, and here I go kind of playing both sides and doing whatever I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Especially when my parents both got into different relationships. Now they're in a new relationship. That person has kids. It's new for them. They're putting a lot more focus and attention into that new relationship, and you just kind of get marginalized, just kind of pushed off to the side.
Is there things you can do to where like you can do home projects with your son to where maybe you talk to the homeowner and say, hey, can we do home improvements here and then get money knocked off the rent, or we do things that you think add value between you and your kid, take on projects in the house and save money?
Well, not really, but check this. I don't know if you can see it.
Is that a GoKart?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
so
tight.
we built this.
That's badass.
Him and I.
What?
Yeah,
How many horsepower? How many horsepower is that? It's like 7.5 or something.
No, it's more like 12.
Oh my god. That thing probably.
Yeah, I went with the bigger engine, man.
Yeah.
But see, we pulled that out. It was in somebody's backyard, just completely rusted, and there wasn't nothing left of it. But him and I, we built it over the past year, and we actually we're waiting on wheels right now, but pretty much $50 at a time, man. Just get the parts, put them on, get the parts, put them on, and so that's something that we've been doing, and that building confidence in him as well as we get to talk, man. One of the cool things about being available and not being gone all the time is that I'm present in his life, and I know what's going on with his friends. He tells me about it. I guide him essentially, and whatever's going on in his life. You know what I mean? I don't judge him. I try, because dude, I don't know why those years between 10 and 14, I mean, they're really solid in my mind. How I felt during those times, being self-conscious of literally everything. I mean, I would get new clothes and stuff like that, like for Christmas, and I wouldn't wear them. You know what I mean? Because this outfit's been accepted by all the people around me. I don't know about this one. And every time people, I stuck out like a sore thumb. So, I was a target big time all the time. It wasn't until I started using in middle school, that I became cool. That white boy's cool. You know what I mean? Shit, I took it and I ran with it. You know what I mean? And I became a fucking really bad guy.
You found a peer group and a niche and an identity that you could cope with, man. That you could relate and people related to. So
When you don't have your parents and you don't have those types of that, when you don't have that availability with someone who loves you, you know, an older person who loves you, you know, like you start seeking it from other people, you know what I mean? You start listening to the guys around in your group, you know, because there's always that scumbag older dude that you can hang out at his house for whatever reason. And he's got like 4 or 5 drunk teenagers and he's 25 in his house, you know, hanging out. And you see that a lot around here, bro. You know, these quote unquote OGs, you know what I mean? That I want to be available so he doesn't seek out that stuff elsewhere. You know what I mean? Those questions don't get answered by people that don't love him. You know what I mean?
yeah, so you're making a change. You're doing something different than what was taught to you. Look, I want to acknowledge that and tell you you're doing great, and just keep going and pumping up, and we're gonna keep talking.